Welcome to Quasar. While we were working on our new Vestroya videos, many of you in the comments asked for a deep dive into the Gundalians. In this video, we're going to talk about the Gundalian Agents and their Bakugan. The second season new Vestroya ends with the introduction of Rin, a programmer who helped launch the Bakugan Inner Space project. Thanks to him, the whole world learned about inner space, and brawlers from everywhere started coming here to show what they're capable of. Having earned their trust, Rin joins the Battle Brawlers, taking his place as the darkest brawler with his partner Bakugan Lionheart. Later, Rin challenges Dan and Drago to a friendly battle where he reveals his battle gear, Boomix. It's a stylish, massive cannon that can fire from a distance like a sniper rifle without even engaging in close combat. When he fired that cannon, Dan had visions of a war on another planet where aliens were fighting with their Bakugan. After this, Rin confesses that he is also an alien from a world called Gundalia. He claims his home world was attacked by invaders from Nethia. To enlist the brawler's help, he points out two Nethian spies he supposedly tracked through the system and challenges them to a fight. These were Lena and a big guy named Sid, but in reality, they were Gundalian agents posing as Nethians. Sid's Bakugan is a Pyrus Rubinoid with 900 Gs, and Lena uses an Aquos Phosphos, a multi-headed Bakugan also at 900 Gs. Rubinoid is actually the first living Bakugan in the anime to be rendered in 3D graphics, whereas previously only Professor Clay's mechanical Bakugan appeared in that format. His complex, ruby-like structure looks incredible in 3D, with glowing facets that 2D animation just couldn't capture. On his back, he carries a powerful battle gear that releases multiple heads upon activation. One of his abilities fires a volley from these heads, which doesn't just deal damage but literally turns the enemy into a ruby crystal, freezing them on the field. Sid and Lena lost that battle and fled. Later, Princess Fabia of Nethia appears, the true enemy of Rin. Rin immediately turned the brawlers against her, and Fabia was disappointed that she didn't reach them first. Meanwhile, Shun followed Fabia to find out who was lying and what was really happening. Long story short, he believed Fabia, realizing that everything Rin said was a lie. The Gundalians were the aggressors, and Nethia was the victim. Gundalia started the war, led by Emperor Barodius, and Fabia was the one who truly needed help. Once the brawlers realized Rin was an enemy, he left the team. In an attempt to find allies, Fabia had previously sent out a distress signal to other worlds. Those were the phantom data that the Brawlers, Spectra, and Clay received back in Season 2. The Gundalians intercepted this because Rin reached Earth first and infiltrated the team. According to the agents, they could have simply hypnotized the Brawlers to fight for them, but as Rin explained, that wasn't efficient. A hypnotized Brawler only operates at 75% capacity, and they needed 100% to conquer Nethia. After the initial failure of the agents, a new brawler named Mason is introduced with his 900 Gs Bakugan Avior. Mason and Sid began capturing other players in Bakugan Inner Space and kidnapping them to Gundalia to be brainwashed for the war. The only way to snap them out of it was to defeat them in a brawl. Unfortunately, all of this was a diversion by Rin, allowing the Gundalian agents to seize control of Inner Space. For being exposed, Emperor Barodius reprimands Rin. However, Rin endures it because he remembers his past. As a child, he was locked in the underworld of Dark Bakugan who possessed forbidden powers. Lionheart was the only one left there. They spent years together and became close friends until the Emperor freed them, giving them the right to live on the surface. Now, Rin feels he owes the Emperor everything to avoid being locked away again. As you've gathered, the Emperor isn't just using Rin and Lionheart to capture players, he's counting on Lionheart to unleash his forbidden power to win the war against Nethia. The reason for the war is the Sacred Orb, a living energy source containing the DNA of all Bakugan. Controlling it means ruling over all Bakugan. While the agents kidnap children, the Gundalians use them for war, and the Nethians defend themselves. I think everyone sees what's really going on now. When the Brawlers were trapped inside Inner Space, they challenged the brainwashed players and managed to break the hypnosis. After that, the agents stepped out themselves, introducing a new member named Zenet. Her Bakugan Contestier also had 900 Gs. Zenet and Lena faced Marucho and Fabia. The Gundalian Bakugan fought well against Aeronaut, showing off the battle gear for Phosphos and Contestier, but the agents began to suspect something was off. It turns out, they were fighting a clone of Marucho the whole time, while the real Marucho was busy restoring access to Bakugan Inner Space. Rin eventually found Marucho, forcing him to retreat, but Marucho managed to fix the system enough for the Brawlers to regain some control. This was perfectly timed because another Nethian named Linus arrived, only to be met by Rin and Jesse. They dragged him into a brawl where Shun and Hawkthor supported the Nethian. Jesse's Bakugan, Plithion, showcased a powerful battle gear that defeated Neo Zipzam. As it turned out, Neo Zipzam held the element, a piece of the Sacred Orb's energy that Barodius desperately wanted. When Jesse and Ren took Neo-Zipzam, the Bakugan went into the protective state, which looked suspicious, so the agents were ordered to bring him to Gundalia. Sid, wanting to make a name for himself, stole Neo-Zipzam and went to brawl with him against Ren's orders. When he released the Bakugan against Drago, Neo passed the element to Drago instead, leaving the Gundalians empty-handed. For this blunder, Sid was removed from the agents and Rubinoid was taken for experiments. Zenet complained to Ren that Sid made their lives harder, so Ren told her to steal the element from Drago by infiltrating the brawlers disguised as Julie. She tried to approach Drago without a fight, but once she was caught, she revealed her true self and challenged Dan. Her house contestant fought Drago well, using the Mystic Solitude Gate card to blind and deafen Drago.
What's this? Dan, where did you go?
Drago, what's happening? Can you hear me?
Zenet then used the evil copy ability, allowing Contestir to mimic Cordum and ambush Drago.
Are you okay, Drago? Cordum, what are you doing here? Where did Contestir go? I don't know. I haven't seen him. Noridum, what are you doing?
Dan eventually found a way out by climbing onto Drago to reach him, and Drago knocked Contestir out to win the first round. In the second round, Contestir used his Sparta Blaster battle gear, but it did nothing against Drago's counterattack. Zenet retreated with the bad news that the brawlers were planning to head to Nethia. Ren was shocked, saying that they would see Dan again soon. Returning to Ren's story, it's worth noting he is shown in a sympathetic light. He stands up for Sid. He also mentions that Zenet failed to steal Drago because of the strong bond of friendship between Dan and his friends, a bond she couldn't break. Later, all the agents are gathered and scolded for failing to recruit the brawlers and losing the element. Naturally, the agents hate this treatment. Mason, Jesse, and Lena are given another chance, but they keep losing or letting their targets escape. By losing these battles, they allow the brawlers to restore Nethia's second shield. This was a massive failure, and Lena and her Bakugan paid with their lives. Learning of Lena's death, Ren was devastated and apologized to her memory. Jesse and Plithion ended up in prison awaiting their sentence. Plithion hated this outcome and escaped with Jesse. Ren was sent to bring them back, but first he allowed Jesse one last battle against the brawlers, which he lost. Jesse escaped his fate, claiming he was Gundalia's greatest actor and that his time was up. At that moment, Plithion rejected Jesse, saying he couldn't stand him anymore and that he didn't deserve to die. Plithion's words were ignored. He was labeled a traitor and he met his end in despair. Jesse, leaving his book, was next, but before he left, he told Ren to his face that he would be the next one to go.
Ren, it looks like the spotlight has shifted to you now.
Farewell.
Realizing the danger, Mason and Avior fled Gundalia, leaving Ren and Zenet as the last remaining agents. While searching for Mason, Ren runs into Fabia and Marucho. Ren claims their past friendship was just a game and a plan, saying betrayal is a powerful weapon and that Marucho was pathetic for crying on the battlefield. However, after the loss of his colleagues, it's clear Ren isn't being sincere. He's lying to himself. It was a massive battle where even the Sacred Orb got angry, forcing Ren and Lionheart to flee. Meanwhile, Zenet is furious that the Emperor hasn't touched Ren while everyone else suffered. She tries to prove her worth by disguising herself as Ren to gather information. She is quickly caught, but gets a chance to fight Shun and Dan. Her loyal Contestir apologized to her, knowing the fate that awaited them. Contestir spoke up for Zenet, convincing Gil to make her an informant instead of killing her. Using her disguise skills, she turned into Nurzak and discovered that Kazarina was planning to overthrow the Emperor. Upon hearing this, Gil immediately eliminated Zenet, and his Bakugan Krakex took out Contestir. Later, we see a room where all the Gundalian agents are actually alive, kept in special detention pods. Sid, Zenet, Jesse, and Lena are all there. Sid wakes up, remembers what happened, and escapes. Meanwhile, Ren mourns his friends, blaming himself for not protecting them. At dawn, Gundalia launches an attack where Ren and Lionheart fight Dan and Drago. During the battle, Dan asks Ren what he's fighting for. Ren answers, for freedom. But Dan points out that for a free man, Ren doesn't look very happy. Dan mentions that when Ren worked with Marucho in Inner Space, he actually looked happy, even if it was supposed to be a trick. Dan suggests that Ren has been lying not just to the brawlers, but to himself. Ren rejects this, saying he is a Gundalian and owes everything to his homeland. Suddenly, the escaped Sid and Rubinoid arrive to help Ren. They lose the battle, and Sid reveals that the others are alive. Ren is overjoyed to see his friend, but in that moment, Dark strikes, and Sid falls into a chasm. Ren tries to hold on to him but fails. Before his actual death, Sid passes Rubinoid to Ren, telling him to look after him.
Sid, what do you mean? Don't worry about the rest of us, Ren. Just do what you have to do, okay? Time to go, Ren!
Ren leaves with Dark but no longer believes in the Emperor or his version of freedom. In the final decisive battle, the Emperor orders the destruction of Drago and promises to reveal the secret of Lionheart's forbidden power. But Ren no longer trusts him and chooses to stand with Nethia. Against Dark, Lionheart awakens his forbidden power, which drastically changes his appearance. The power could have destroyed the entire planet, but the Guardian of the Sacred Orb, Dragonoid Colossus, awoke to calm Lionheart down. Thanks to Lionheart's power, Nethia repelled the invasion and Gundalian was forced to retreat. After that day, Ren understood his duty as a protector. He had to guard Lionheart so the forbidden power, the curse of the Dark Bakugan, would never be misused again. Ren wanted to go into isolation, but the Brawlers convinced them to join the team. After this battle, Nethia only had one active shield left. The Brawlers decided to run a full diagnostic of the defense system and give Lionheart time to recover. But things didn't go as planned. When the team tried to teleport to the palace, the system glitched. Ren and Lionheart were blocked. It was a restriction. It turns out Gundalians physically cannot enter the palace. The shield was programmed so that anyone with Gundalian DNA is barred, the only way to permanently stop an invasion. Princess Fabia wasn't ready to accept them fully yet and said she didn't trust them completely. Marucho went out to find Ren and Lionheart and brought them food. While they were eating, Fabia and Aranat appeared and challenged them. Fabia made a deal, a brawl for forgiveness. If she and Aranat won, Ren and Lionheart would leave. If Ren won, they would join them. Despite a series of ability cards and Boom Mix battle gear, Lionheart lost the first round. Ren then brought out Sid's Rubinoid. Rubinoid started aggressively with the Ruby Stormgate card and combined with Destructicon gear, holding his own against Aranat. But Aranat activated his Battle Crusher gear and the Battle Pressure Down ability, defeating Rubinoid. Ren lost decisively. Do you think Ren left? Nope. After the fight, Fabia saw that he had truly changed and accepted him into the team. They became the Castle Knights. At this time, Mason and Avior also joined Nethia, choosing to fight with them rather than the Gundalians who tried to get rid of them. Ren and Mason went to Gundalia to rescue their friends, but they weren't there. They had been freed and were fighting under hypnosis. To carry out their plans, they decided to lay low on Gundalia.
Why does Barodius wear suspenders?
It's to keep his pants up.
Huh? Correct. I'm gonna find Master Nerzak. There's a chance he might still be alive.
Mason and Avior split from the group for efficiency, while Ren and Lionheart fired Boomix at Barodius' palace from afar. This was a diversion that allowed the Brawlers to slip inside. Ren faced off against Gil and Krakix. Gil called him a traitor, reminding him that he lived on the surface thanks to the Emperor. Ren made it clear that he was with the Brawlers forever and wouldn't be fooled by Barodius again. The Brawlers returned to Nethia to fight Barodius, who found a way through the shield. We then see Rubinoid on Nethia, talking to Linus during the heat of the war. It's revealed that off-screen, Ren gave Rubinoid to Linus, who had lost Neo Zipzam earlier in the war. It was decided that a Pyrus Bakugan like Rubinoid should be with the Pyrus Master. Rubinoid lost Sid, and Linus lost Neo Zipzam. Having both suffered loss, they found each other and were happy to start a new journey together. Our agents were still under hypnosis fighting against Nethia, but when Kazarina was killed, they finally came to their senses. They didn't understand how they got there, remembering only the laboratory. They declared that Barodius meant nothing to them and joined the side of Nethia. Seeing the ruins of the war, Lionheart says he just wanted to live under the sun like everyone else, not participate in a war. This is when he realizes why he was given the forbidden power. He glows and reveals angelic wings. This time, he controls the power. His feathers and aura completely restore the destroyed environment and the entire planet. Barodius was defeated, and Ren, Lionheart, and the other agents returned to Gundalia to form a new government. Rubinoid chose to stay on Nethia to help with the reconstruction. The story of the agents doesn't end there. In Mectanium Surge, we learned that Ren became the commander of the Gundalian forces. This happens in the 4th season, a year after the war. Ren became a key character in the fight against Magmail and Razornoid, battling the Chaos Bakugan. And let's not forget the others. We saw Jesse and Plithion and Mason with Avior all fighting against the Chaos Bakugan. That's it for our video. Thanks for watching, subscribe, hit the like button, and our next video will also be about Gundalia and the 12 Orders.